Welcome to this episode. It's number 86 of Digitally. Today, we'll discuss innovation at scale. It is something that many of us work on. Though when it comes to driving innovation in large enterprises, we know that it is essential to reinventing our businesses, and yet we face significant competing priorities, compressing capital allocation, legacy architecture, and tons, of course, of technical debt. So very few large organizations have been able to crack the code on how to innovate at scale. And of course, with the advent of generative AI and soon to be quantum computing, this question becomes even more existential. So that's the topic I want to pick up today. I want to unpeel that at the intersection of emerging tech and large enterprise or institutions today. And I'd like to do that with someone who's a true innovator in the context of large enterprises. Our guest today is Vanessa Fernandes, and she's been the Chief Digital Experience Officer for BNY Mellon, the Chief Technology Officer for Emerging Technologies and CIO for Itaú, and the CEO of Itaú's digital assets business. Of course, many of you will know Itaú. They're Brazil's largest bank, leading Latin America bank in the world today. And with all of that, please welcome Vanessa.
Thank
Vanessa,
you.
you and I have known each other for a little bit, and I know that you drove, among other things, the bank's move to the cloud. You created their first AI, blockchain, and actually even the quantum computing center of excellence at the bank. So I want to lean into you a little bit for this discussion. I want to take some of that experience and crystallize it in three areas for our audience. How do you develop a framework for innovating at scale? I want to talk a little bit about how do you source the best ideas. I want to talk a little bit about how do you land the best ideas? And then, of course, how do you run the best ideas? And so with that, let me start with the first one. Let's talk a little bit about how do you come up with these ideas for innovation at a large enterprise?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Sanjay. It's a pleasure. I've been watching some of your episodes, and I'm really humble here. And thank you so much for inviting me to be part of it. Thank you so much. So going to your questions, how we get into the innovation and how we learn with what is happening. This was something that we were discussing in Itaú for a while I was here as a CIO. I was always trying to partner and benchmark with larger institutions on how they were learning, how they were evolving, how they come up with new product ideas. And then I saw that some of them have labs, some of them have partnerships with accelerators, some of them invest. And we were taking all of it, like all the approaches related to innovation, because there is not one correct answer. What we have is different approaches that can fit to your purpose, right? To your business. So in Itaú, and then I was a CIO by that time, and while I was learning with the technology ecosystem like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and seeing how they were developing new technologies, I was also learning with the fintechs and getting close to the VCs as well to see if there was opportunity for us to invest. So for us, we were by that time working with center of excellences in technology, so big tech companies and what they were doing in the edge of technology, for instance, on quantum or AI. They have these executive briefings called EBC, and we used to go a lot of them where they bring their specialists and they teach us about what they are doing and what they are developing. So this is one source of knowledge. We were partnering with several VCs here in US as well, where as you are in the top of investing in the companies and learning and hearing from the founders how they were coming up with the ideas, how they were being nimble and efficient. So there is so much that we can learn with the fintech and the startups. And of course, for a bank, a huge, large institutions, there is several risks that we cannot run. So we cannot go as fast as we could or we wish.
Yeah.
But there is a lot that we can do better. So open innovation, that was the approach that we were using in Itaú, where we could learn and get from the VCs and the startups how they were innovating.
I love this, right? Because I think you said two things really clearly. You've talked about humility and the mindset that we don't have all the answers inside the corporation. I'm not talking about your bank. I'm just talking generally across enterprises. You have to start with the mindset that we don't have all the answers. And I think the other thing you've said is this idea of outside in. And what better way to do that than to come into Silicon Valley, meet with venture capitalists, meet with, and I think you mentioned one of them, meet with teams of large corporations that are leading in technology and learn from them, hear from them, and actually bring those ideas in. And then do that with a group of people so that it's not just you that is getting educated, but you're bringing the entire leadership team around. And I think you've said those three things in some ways, and I find that really, in many ways, something I can relate to. I've just come back from San Francisco Friday, meeting with OpenAI and one of the larger venture capital groups there, and so I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, so that's how you source, right? And you've given us a great starting framework on that. Let's move to how do you land it? And landing it isn't just a great idea in your mind, but it's in the great idea in the minds of your stakeholders and getting them engaged and fully involved. How do you land these things?
So you don't need to do it all, right? We can also partner with other companies, and that's what we choose to do. So we were, by the same time that we were investing in some startups, we were also partnering and developing solutions together. I think that was something that was very rich because we could see how they were being agile in a bank that by that time was still running in waterfall and trying to get into the agile framework. So we were learning with them and seeing how they were getting involved and being part of the idea. So technology is not only an area that can serve to the business, is a part of the strategy. So we decided that we would be doing this all in forehand. So it was business, our technology team, plus the startup world or fintechs or technology companies. So we were partnering a lot with them. So we had a framework where we could start from the ideation. So in a design thinking session with the line of businesses, trying to get what are the problems, because it's not innovate just for the sake of innovation, right? So we need to solve a problem. And we were trying to see what are the problems that we are trying to solve, what opportunities are out there that we want to develop, new business, as for instance, what we did with blockchain, right? So when we got that list, curated list of problems, of issues that we were trying to solve, then we move it to the VCs to trying to find solutions, to the big tech companies to try to see where they had or not, or if it's something that we had to develop in-house. When we found out, okay, so those are the solutions, we get a demo day in the bank. We bring the executives, we bring the startups to show what they have. We bring the big techs to show how they are investing as well. And then we come up, okay, we got from 15 or 16 from a curated list of 200 that we assessed before, right? We presented those 15, and with that, we picked 3 or 4 solutions that would make sense for us to try out. So then it's the outside world. When we would, from our list of issues, we go to seek for intelligence and technologies, and then we pivot to trying those technologies and see how we could really make a fit of that solution with the business that we have. So a real business case that we could try. Then we had a small lab that we could try the technology. If it works, then we could pass to the next CIO from the business line, so they would scale with that solution. So first we would POC and trying the technology as small use.
I love it, because I think what you really said, and it's a great framework, right? Because you said, number one, start with the question, don't start with the answer. You said it differently, but that's the point you made. You said partner on ideas, don't try and invent everything yourself. So bring in others from the ecosystem that can help you think through it. Number two, you talked about this idea of a demo day, but more importantly, the nascent ideas, how do you get the rest of the team engaged in experiencing, feeling, visualizing, and really getting excited and behind the projects? You talk about picking a few, which is don't try and spread yourself too thin. Use a mechanism to reduce it down to a few that will drive action. And that's the last thing you said, that drives actual business value. And so maybe a 4 or 5 part framework that I kind of extracted from what you said. And if we can use that in a repeated fashion, I think it brings great success to landing innovation ideas. So now with that, let's get on to the third part, which is how do you run them? How do you make the most out of it? Talk to us a little bit about your experience there.
Yeah, so we were developing center of excellence. When we pick one technology, we saw many, right? So it's worth for us to work in the electric vehicles. No, this is not a business. And by chance, we did invest in one company, but that was not our core business. So we were trying, 5G and virtual reality, but this was something that was proven that wasn't working in that fashion, and it was not connecting to our clientele, to our customer database. But then we experiment in blockchain, and then we spin off the Center of Excellence in blockchain. Then we were trying quantum computing, and we spent 18 months learning and hiring quantum physicists so they could really get into understand the business, understand what value and where we could be applying. And then based on that, what kind of use case we can develop that we could really bring a real value to the bank. So those center of excellences were focused in that technology. So we could not like just because first we
Right.
can see it all and we want to play with all the toys, right? But the thing is, it's not that we don't have limited resources. So we
Right.
have to make choices in a smart way. So
I mean,
we
there's a lot
got
of areas, right? Quantum, blockchain, AI. You couldn't have been successful in every single thing. So as you look back at it, what's the one lesson you can leave with us on resilience?
So I think that it's not that you lose. I think that you learn. So there is no such thing as losing experimentations. And I think that this was one I think message that I could align with our executives. It's not that everything is going to bring us return over the investment, but knowledge is our return. So we can spin off ideas based on something that we experienced before that was not our core by that time. And the same thing happened with blockchain. We were experiencing a lot of stress because we were having the Center of Excellence running for 5 years already and no tangible results. And then by the time that we were disassembling the team, I was like, let's shout and see how we can deploy something. And then I show a video to an Itaú coin that was a fictitious coin to the bank. And then the executive started saying, no, this is crazy. Like how you are doing it. And I saying, this is the capacity that we have in our team. So let's work on tokenization of real assets. And then we come up with a business case. And that's where I became the CEO for digital assets, because we built up a platform for tokenization of real assets and then custody for cryptocurrencies. That's what they are doing today. So that was very innovative. But by the time we were like really stressed because we didn't have that much of success before. And it was our last shot, and we managed to do it right.
So what an amazing story, because I think on the run side, I think the thing I really take away from you is don't approach this as a lose. When you lose, you still learn, and knowledge is the real return, right? Because it can always be leveraged. It can always be refocused into something else that will deliver returns. And I think, it's an easy one to sort of forget. And I love the fact that you brought that out so eloquently with the example you put out. I think the other thing that I loved about your story is this idea of being very agile and being able to pivot quickly. I mean, a simple thing like taking a project that perhaps wasn't going to plan, or at least the plan that existed at the time, as was the case with your, the blockchain idea, but then being able to quickly create a video to really visualize what it could be and be able to spread it around the leaders in the bank and have them jump on it. And my God, yes, custody for crypto is obviously a large part of what you do now. And for it to have come out of that is just amazing to hear. And so I walk away that thinking learn versus lose, focus on knowledge is the real return, and then pivot quickly as you learn more in a creative way and actually focus on where the returns are. I don't think I could have said any more. It is so amazing to be sitting with you and having this discussion. I've always enjoyed our conversations, but no more than the one today. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a real pleasure.